Hey, what is going on, everyone? I hope all of you guys are doing well. So, it is early in the morning. I want to say it's about 8 o'clock, maybe after that, might be close to 9. I don't know at this point. I'm pretty tired. I'm actually on my third cup of coffee as we speak. So, I'll probably end up taking a few sips here and there throughout this review. Like so. So, the 1990s. What can we say about the 1990s other than being a really awesome decade? So many cool things that came out, some great TV shows, animated shows, uh, toys, movies, of course. And one of the biggest things in the 90s, at least the early 90s, right before I would say 96, right before we got to the middle of the 90s, one of the biggest things was video game adaptations. And of course, this started the trend back in 1993, about 31 years ago. Uh, and at that time, everybody was excited. One of the most popular and beloved Nintendo games was getting a movie. Well, it's not what everybody expected, and it didn't do too well. It did pretty awful. But over the years and over the past 31 years, it has grown a cult following and recently would end up getting itself a 4K release. So during that time, it didn't stop the movie studios from doing more video game adaptations. We would, of course, get Street Fighter, and we would get Mortal Kombat, which both films will come out in different years. But in 1994, we got another video game adaptation. I believe this might be either the second or third video game adaptation during that time, and that is the film Double Dragon. Now, this stars Scott Wolf, Mark Dacascos, Robert Patrick, and Alyssa Milano. Now, Robert Patrick was really well known for doing Terminator 2, Judgment Day, playing the T-1000, and Alyssa Milano, at this point, a lot of people knew who she was from being on the TV sitcom Who's the Boss. Mark Dacascos was I guess one of those upcoming actors, because I think during the 90s he did a lot of movies. He continues to still act, um, but he wasn't as big as he was back in the 90s. I feel like the 90s was really a big mainstream, a big, I wouldn't say mainstream, but it was really big in the way of the action genre. Everybody you saw had some type of action movie coming out, whether that was a theatrical release or whether that was a home video release. Guys like Stallone, Van Damme, Schwarzenegger, um, Lundgren. I mean, just everybody was coming out with some type of movie, and whether it did well or whether it didn't, eventually it would grow the cult followings that it has today. So, but yeah, Double Dragon, well popular and based off the video game. I believe it had 3 video games on the NES, and it has had other versions of the game as well. And it also was successful enough to spawn a animated series, which of course, like any product of the 90s, that animated series would produce a toy line. So Double Dragon follows Billy and Jimmy, two brothers. They are caught in this situation where you have Robert Patrick, who is the villain of the film. He has this medallion known as a medallion that when the two are together, they're known as the Double Dragon of some sort. And I apologize if I'm not completely accurate. I watched this movie a couple days ago, but he basically wants the complete medallion. It's split into 2 pieces. Jimmy and Billy have the other, a family friend of theirs, has this medallion, and they're keeping it protective. Of course, Robert Patrick's character finds out that they have it, and basically tries to do everything he can to take out Billy and Jimmy and get this medallion so he can pretty much take over the city. And you know, things start to happen throughout the film. It's kind of one of those movies that's really hard because it's mainly just like the plot itself is just Robert Patrick wanting to kind of rule over everybody. He's kind of in charge of the city. Now this film, the city that this film takes place in is kind of like this weird apocalyptic type, almost similar to like the same universe that RoboCop's in, which in some weird way you could technically say they exist in the same universe, just the style and atmosphere of the kind of worlds that they live in. And Robert Patrick is fantastic in this. He looks completely different than what you would expect, and I like his character. He comes off like this very um very intelligent, kind of, it's kind of one of those villains where, he doesn't have to do a whole lot, and he what he does is effective without having to like put a whole lot of effort, I guess. I don't know. I at this point I don't know where I'm going with this review. Um, Scott Wolf and Mark Dacascos, I think, were a perfect choice. I like the chemistry between the two. And Scott Wolf, I've always been a fan of. I just feel like he doesn't get enough credit. He would do Party of Five along with some really big names like Nev Campbell and Lacey Chabert, and then I can't remember the other actor that they worked with. He eventually would go on to do Lost. Um, but yeah, Scott Wolf is a really fantastic actor, and he's actually last year he did a Hallmark Christmas movie called A Scottish Christmas, I believe, and he reunited with Lacey Chabert on that one. Now, Mark Dacascos has, of course, gone on to do other things. Around the late '90s, a TV adaptation to The Crow was premiered during the late '90s, and he went on to do that series. And then, of course, he went on to do the Mortal Kombat Legacy, that very popular but short-lived little webisode series. And he's still continuing to act. He kind of shows up here and there. Alyssa Milano still acting. Went on to do Charm. Robert Patrick, of course, went on to do the X Files during its later run, and he still continues to act. He's done Strange Wilderness and a few other movies and shows. I think he did Sons of Anarchy. I think he did a few episodes of that. And I'm trying to think what else he's done. Um, Peacemaker. So he was in Peacemaker. He actually played the father. Um, the actor who was in the TV adaptation of Weird Science is in this, just for small little roles, or not small little roles, but like has a small little appearance in a few scenes here and there. But nonetheless, it's a fun, just a fun movie. Um, it's not something to take too seriously. The story can be weak and goofy. Let's see. What else? So he plays the evil tycoon. And yeah, he is obsessed of getting the two halves. That's what it says in the back, that he's obsessed. And I did want to mention that. So yeah, he wants to get the talisman known as the Double Dragon, and he does know Billy and Jimmy's father. There is this like little plot, subplot, that their father, was killed, and I think that he at one point worked with Robert Patrick's character and things like that. Excuse me. But yeah, to sum up in a better way, to kind of explain it a little bit better, is that Robert Patrick, is this tycoon. he wants, he's of course obsessed with finding this talisman that is known as the Double Dragon. He eventually finds out that Billy and Jimmy have it, along with their family friend, and basically he wants it so he can basically rule over the city and who knows what else to rule. So it's basically them trying to fight back. Those typical, the bad guy did something to us, we got to come back for the bad guy. Yeah, it's kind of one of those. To me, it just seems hard to review this film of some sort. But I don't see anybody review this movie often, so I figured I'd come on here and do a review for myself. But I love this movie. It's been one of my all-time favorites. So when the DVD came out way back in the day, the early 2000s, and a really fun, interesting story is I was on the hunt for this movie for years, and I mean years, and it was of course out of print. You'd be paying uh, somewhat of a pretty penny for it, to say the least. Well, one time I went to Movie Stop and I went to one location and they told me that it was available, but it was available at another location. That location was a little bit more closer to me. I go in there, they look in the back, and yeah, they had it. And they actually priced it low for me. So I was very, very happy with that. And yeah, I had that. Eventually got rid of it because I eventually at that time found out that Germany had a Blu-ray release that was region free. Of course, you got the English audio, and then I went on to get that and then eventually got rid of that because this was announced. But I waited so long to pick this one up. I wanted to just kind of wait, and I'm glad I did. The transfer on this looks absolutely amazing. I mean, by all means, it's not going to look perfect, but for what we got, I think it looked great. It has its grain moments, but it's not like anything strong or anything like that. But I thought it was a good release, and with a lot of the MVD releases, you do get a poster. So I will eventually be getting frames for the posters for sure. But nonetheless, that is my review for Double Dragon. I hope you guys enjoyed this review of some sort on the film. If you have seen this movie, I would love to hear your opinion. What is your favorite video game adaptation? For me, it's definitely Double Dragon and Street Fighter. They're just goofy in their own way, and there's there are definitely films I watched more than like the Super Mario Brothers movie. Now, don't get me wrong, I love that movie, but I don't remember seeing myself watch that movie as often as I would Double Dragon and Street Fighter. And I think a lot of it had to do with just it was a rare occasion that those two movies would be played on TV. But nonetheless, it was great to revisit that film. And, I hope you all enjoyed this review. And if you enjoyed the review, definitely give it a thumbs up. It's much appreciated and it keeps me going. Comment down below what your favorite video game adaptation is. Do you guys like Double Dragon? Do you feel like it could have been done a little bit better? Would you like to see another Double Dragon movie be made today? And if you could have it made, who would you like to see? To me personally, if we got another Double Dragon video game adaptation, I would like to see a new cast play these characters, but I would also like to see everybody from the original have some small little appearance. It doesn't matter if it's just a few scenes, a quick little cameo. I think it'd be a little fun ride, or do an animated film, kind of similar to the Super Mario Brothers, but let's get the original cast back. That would be something pretty cool to see. But nonetheless, let me know down in the comment section below. And if you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I do movie reviews like this. I do wrestling prediction videos, collection updates, unboxings, and a few little videos here and there. So with that being said, I'm Film Talk with Mikey. And until next time, guys, we'll talk films. You guys have a good one, and I'll see you soon. Peace.